Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show. This is a somewhat delayed Goodwood Festival preview. We're recording this on Thursday morning, previewing Friday and Saturday of Goodwood. I'm your host, George Elek. I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Holding. And Andy, we're halfway through the week. We haven't seen Thursday's racing as of yet. I'm personally normally I watch Goodwood on TV and I'm so devastated not to be there. It's by far and away my favourite racecourse in the country, and the sun is shining. There's nowhere better to be. This week I've been watching over the moon that I'm not there because it's been filthy. How's your week been so far?
Very quiet. I try and avoid Goodwood if I can at the best of times. It's just one of those tracks where I've got a pretty modest record. I tend to concentrate on
not visiting though, surely?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. No, I used to enjoy going. Done a few corporate hospitality gigs there, played golf on the golf course on the Monday, and really enjoyed the festivities for the first 2 days. And as an attendance and attendee, and the actual meeting itself, it's fantastic. Betting there is just treacherous. I haven't had a bet there today. Actually, I have had one anti-post bet in the first race, but I put nothing up on my column. The only horse I did have as a non-runner. I'm actually quite glad because it's in between, isn't it, today? I think we knew where we were yesterday. We had pretty much horrendous results along the way. One or two favourites won, but it was tough going. But it's going to dry out, and we're still verging on soft to heavy today, where the draw is, are they going to come across? And then we move on to Friday, Saturday in particular, which we'll get onto, where they opened up a new fresh strip of ground. So it could well be that maybe high numbers might dominate on the straight track over the weekend. So it's difficult in advance trying to ascertain what kind of horses we want, not knowing what exactly the ground's going to be in the next 2 days, and more importantly, what the draw is. And I don't think has the draw been made for the Stewards Cup yet?
I don't think so. At time of recording, it probably would have done by the time. No, I don't think so. Not
exactly. Yeah. So, we're going to be covering the Stewards Cup, but I certainly won't be putting anything up here until I've seen the draw.
Yeah, apologies to those who were waiting on a show earlier in the week. We tried to get one sorted for Monday, but various issues and things meant that we just weren't able to get everything sorted. And obviously we had Racing Weekly up on the show as well, which flagged up some stuff with Johnny coming over to the studio that you can see I'm sitting in right now, if you're the eagle-eyed amongst you who watch both shows. But let's get into the action. We're going to be going through the card on Friday, tomorrow's racing, and we'll do the 30 races on Saturday as well. And kicking off with the 150, do download the oddschecker app where you can find the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, place terms, and Andy's tips straight to the app every morning of racing. And the 150 on Friday is the Goodwood handicap over an extended 2.5 miles, calling the wind, having a brilliant season. A horse that travels so smoothly is the 5-1 favourite. Typewriter 8-1, Tritonic 9-1, Robert Johnson 9-1, Agagio 11-1, Tronador and Mostly Sunny, both 12-1, 14-1, Emin and Law of the Sea and Temporize. Andy, how do you see this?
Well, I think you've got to factor in calling the wind, whichever sort of way you attack this race. He's just a thoroughly reliable, likeable stayer that has pretty much 9 times out of 10 turned up at all the big gigs. Your Chester Cups, your Queen Alexandras, your Ascot Stakes, that kind of race. Anything from 1.6 to 2.5 miles, he always seems to perform to a fairly good standard. He goes on most grounds, and he got his due rewards for all those series of consistent runs with a victory in the Northumberland Plate in a very fast time. He's gone well here before, so you're pretty sure if you're backing him, what you're going to get. He's obviously now at a price where you're not normally accustomed to him being, i.e. he's normally like a 10, 12 to 1 chance, so he has been in these kind of races before. But now, obviously, with a bit more high profile background to him, he's a 5-1 poke. But he's got to be a factor. I do quite like the filly of Andrew Bolden's in this. Andrew's had a really good week. He's also in good form anyway, but he's had 2 winners already. And he's got a horse called Typewriter, who I've always thought has got a big race in her. She was a really good 2-year-old stroke 3-year-old. And so far this season, she's run to a pretty good standard. She ran okay first time up here, so we know she handles Goodwood. In fact, she ran well as a 2-year-old here at Goodwood, so Goodwood definitely suits. And then she was fourth in a Group 3 at, I think it was York 2 runs ago, beyond River of Stars, who we'll get on to later on in the podcast. Then they upped to 2 mile 5 for the Queen Alexandra last time out. You could argue she didn't quite get that extended to 5.5, but she was up against some top class horses on the day, and a lot of horses rated in the 100. So she actually ran quite well for a horse rated 94. She now goes back into handicap company on ground that she'll like. She's won on soft ground before at Nottingham as a youngster, and back to Goodwood as well. So with the yard in good form, Goodwood form, soft ground form, we know she stays the trip. She's actually nicely handicapped. Yep, Typewriter makes plenty of sense for me anyway, each way at 8-1.
Typewriter 8-1. You've got Hills going 6 places as well. A few other firms going 5 places. Typewriter 8-1 pretty much across the board. On to the 225 now. The Bonham's Thoroughbred Stakes over a mile. And Nostrum is the 8-13 favourite, ahead of Docklands at 9-2. Epictetus 17-2. Bold Discovery 14s. Knight 16s. Galeron 20-1. 40-1. Montesilviano. 7 runners here, so just the 2 places each way. Nostrum, a horse that we last saw winning at Newmarket back in July in the listed race, ran behind Chaldine in the Dewhurst in October. Of course, Chaldine going on to win the 2000 Guineas, beat Royal Ascot winner Holloway Boy before that. So plenty of appeal on paper, Andy. 8-13, any juice in that price?
Not on the ground, no. So one unknown quantity that we haven't got with Nostrum. We know he's a very high-class horse, one of the most promising horses, arguably, in training. I don't think we've really touched the surface with him just yet. He's having a huge amount of improvement. I actually fancied a couple against him that day at Newmarket in that listed race, and he basically blew him apart. And then Bestow had gone there off the back of 2 good wins. New Endeavour had finished second in the Britannia behind Docklands. And he turned them away. Not only did he turn them away in huge, impressive style, stretching out over on that July course. And the sky's the limit for him, really. I think he's a Group 1 horse in waiting. There's no doubt about that. So this is a good spot for connections. The only problem is the ground. He's an easy-moving, long-striding type that you would have thought soft ground or heavy ground would be of an inconvenience of some description. Whether it inconveniences him enough to prevent him from winning this race is down to question. Whereas Docklands, the second favourite, has got good form on soft ground. He won his previous race before going to Royal Ascot on a softish surface. So with him, there isn't no doubt. And I think at the prices, I'd probably just on this occasion go with Docklands. Similar to Nostrum, he's a big, strong, imposing type who I think we haven't really seen the best of yet, even though he has won 3 straight races. I think he's, again, another Group horse in waiting. The form of that Britannia always works out really well, and that's been very much the way it is starting to pan out already this season. So I think it is between the two. I think the market's got it right, but 8-13 against 9-2, in the hope that maybe Nostrum isn't quite at his best, I'll go for Docklands just on this occasion as a value alternative.
Win only or each way?
But you could back him each way, I suppose, because you'd like to think he'd beat the rest. So, yeah, I mean, there's more one way to skin a cat. You could go each way. Some firms will bet 3 places, no doubt. You can get place-only bets 3 places if you wanted to have a small win bet and a bigger place bet, or even a bet without the favourite just to be on the safe side. So I'd basically be revolving my sort of whole strategy around Docklands.
Docklands is 6-4 with Sky Bet in the without markets. That could be one other way to go if you do respect Nostrum's chances. In the 3 o'clock, we've got the Golden Mile. Latam is the 4-1 favourite, ahead of Blue for You and Takrib Bay at 10-1. Racing Breaks Rider 11-1. Dutch Decoy 12-1. Awal 12-1. Ravitch 14s. Perotto 14s. 16-1 by those. Loads in here. Sky Bet goes 7 places, Andy. Who's your pick of the bunch in this big handicap?
Yeah, I've got a couple of big prices. So I'll get onto those in a second. I think Latam's the right favourite. I mean, if you've had an anti-post bet in this race, most of the time you're looking for a reasonably good draw. So if you've bet Latam, who's drawn 3, you've dropped lucky in that respect. I say drop lucky, but the inside draw might not necessarily be the place to be if they come across the Stanzai rail ago, where the high numbers have had an advantage. So like the more you are on the inside of the track, the worse you actually are when you turn for home across the near side. So it may or may not be a good draw. And look, he's got soft ground form. He won the Irish Lincoln. He finished second to Jimi Hendrix which form looks even better now. And he won a competitive race last time at Newcastle. So he ticks a lot of boxes. But as we've seen before, a lot of those Haggis horses get way, way over bet. There's certain stables that seem to sort of sucker punters in time and time again, and they don't all win. I do like a couple that ran well recently without actually showing it on their form figures. I thought Bo Pedro ran really nicely at Ascot last weekend on King George Day.
25 to 1.
Yeah, he never got in the race, George, after getting messed around at the start. But I did notice that he posted the fastest closing sectional of any horse in that race. And he certainly suggested to me that A, he remains in good form, and B, stepping back up to a mile or two. He's got plenty of form on soft ground early on in the season. And he comes from a yard that's got a particularly good record in this race, David Amara. They've won it last year, of course, with Orban, who represents the stable again. And, of course, they've got Ross Collin in it. So they're having a good crack at it again. But at 25 to 1, I do think Bo Pedro is worth more than the second look. And the other one would be Thackeray Bay, who actually won his race on the far side last week, where the high draw horses had a distinct advantage. I think he finished 6th, but he was first to 14 over on that far side. So he comes in probably better form than his form figures suggest. Again, he's got plenty of soft ground form over a mile. He was third in the big mile handicap. I think it's the Balmoral handicap on King George on Champions Day last year. And he's got plenty of other good form here at Goodwood. So he goes well at Goodwood. He's relatively well drawn, and I liked his run on Saturday. So basically two horses out of that 7-furlong handicap over the weekend at Ascot are coming here fresh and well. Thackeray Bay and Bo Pedro.
Yeah, Bo Pedro 25 to 1 with 365, Coral, and a couple of others there as well, who all 4 places. Betfred and Bet365 are 5 places. Thackeray Bay, you're getting 10 to 1 best price with Betfred and Bet365. I'd say, yeah, Sky Bet 7 places to go 17 to 2. The 335, the 4th race on the card, is the King George over 5 furlongs, the King George Qatar Stakes. Highfield Princess is the 10 to 11 favourite over Equality at 13 to 2. Ladies Church 11 to 1. Equilateral 12 to 1. Makarova 14s 20 to 1 by those 11 runners here, Andy. Sky Bet go 4 places.
Yeah, I'll probably be looking for some of the gain each way here to put up, George. I mean, Highfield Princess, not the kind of horse I want to be tipping at 10 to 11, particularly in these kind of sprint races where anything can happen. Look, we know she's got the best form coming in here. A great effort at Royal Ascot, running twice in 4 or 5 days span. Had to be carried out on our shield in both races. Has got loads of soft ground form. Has got form here at Goodwood. Probably the best performance actually. I think it was last year. Might be the year before. Was on soft ground over in Ireland. So that's not a problem. She's just not really that great value, given the conditions. She's drawn stall 3 as well. Well, I don't really know again by Friday where they'll end up racing, where they'll look for some fresh strip of ground down the middle and shun the stand side. But the stand side seems to have been the place to be so far this week. But either way, I do think there's a couple that are overpriced there. Makarova and Nymphadora, 2 fillies representing the 4-year-old category. I'm a big fan of Makarova. I think she's going the kind of way that suggests that she could be sort of a Group 2, Group 1 horse in another sort of few months' time, or even a 12 months' time. I loved her win at Ayr when she won in a very fast time, and then just found her quality too good for her to Sandown, but there was definitely no disgrace in that. She wouldn't want the ground too soft. I think she'll handle good to soft like she has done in the past, but if it was still soft and heavy and they got more rain, then I'd be a little bit worried. And the other one who certainly wouldn't be worried about whatever the conditions were, particularly on the soft side, is Nymphadora. Now, she's drawn stall 2, which at face value doesn't look ideal, but let's face it, the favourite's drawn 3. So if Highfield Princess is going to lead and going to win, let's say, then Nymphadora shouldn't have any excuses drawn right next to her. She's got an amazing record on soft ground. And the fact that she won on quick ground last time at York definitely stands her in good stead. Yard's in good form. So is Jason Watson at 20 to 1. I do think she's overpriced. So I'll probably have a round of drinks on Nymphadora, and I do pay a healthy respect to Makarova. But whatever happens to Makarova, when she gets back on good or good to firm ground in the not too distant future, I think it'll dry out soon. She's a filly to stay on the right side of.
Elek over 14-1. That is also with Sky Bet, who are 4 places. 365. Hills and a couple of others also that price. And Nymphadora, standout best price, 20-1 with Bet365. The main selection there for Andy in the 335. On then to the 410, the Glorious Stakes. Sorry, the King's Plate, I should say, where we've got Hamish is the 4-5 favourite, taken out obviously late last week, 66-1, and that Stellar Renewal 4-5 favourite here with Candleford at 4-1, Mimi Q 9-2, and then double figure prices the rest, 16-1, both Tenacious Fox and Hard One to Please, Epic Poet 20-1, Jack Darcy 25-1, another 7-runner race, Andy, with an odds-on favourite, Disgrace. How do you see this?
Yeah, well, when you compare prices like for like and you think what's got the toughest task out of the two, Highfield Princess and Hamish, I'd say Hamish is probably a better 4-5 shot than Highfield Princess, just based on our position and the fact that he absolutely adores soft ground. I think if it stayed as it was, he'd be even more of a strong choice. Put it this way, if it was yesterday, he'd be 1-2 to beat this field. But either way, I think the fact that he was in the King George tells you all you need to know about him. I think he wouldn't have disgraced himself on Saturday, but it probably was actually not quite ideal for him. Softer the better. And, you know, even though he's only workman like last time out at Newbury, he still won, I thought, with a little bit in hand. So, yeah, it's unoriginal, but I do think on this occasion, I can't see beyond Hamish. Just a very good horse at this kind of level on that ground.
Hamish 4-5 across the board, the selection there for Andy. 2 more races on the card on Friday at Goodwood, starting with the 4:45. The nursery here, we've got Loaded Gun at 5-1, Starlust 6-1, Specific Times and Flag of St George both 15-2, Morna Lower 17-2, Swordplay 9-1, Whoop Whoop and Serried Rank both 10-1 at 12-1 bar those. 15 run here again. 5 places with Sky Bet, plenty of others going 4 places, Andy.
Yeah, I like the top one here, George. Rafe Beckett's horse, Starlust. Again, a little bit of an issue about the ground. He won't necessarily want it soft or heavy, or certainly we don't know whether he does, but his 2 wins have come on good or good to firm ground. Very good second time up on the all-weather at Chelmsford, having gone promisingly first time at the same track, and then first run on turf the other day at Newbury under a penalty. He beat a horse of Andrew Baldwin's called Array, who was a bit unlucky not to win on day 1 at the Goodwood Festival. Ran really well in defeat. Just got done by the way the race panned out. But the third horse, Indian Run of Eve Johnson Horton's, won at Ascot on Saturday in a good race. So the form of that Newbury race has worked out really well. I really do like Starlust. I think he's got a touch of quality about him. I think he's not far off pattern class, even at this stage. But yeah, the ground would be a little bit of a worry. I wouldn't be wholeheartedly recommending him if it stayed as it was. But if it dried out, then I think the drier the conditions, the better. And there's every chance of it going that way. So yeah, big fan of Starlust, and he'd be my one to sort of follow whatever happens to him on Friday.
Starlust is 6-1 across the board there. Yeah, Sky Bet 5 places if you want to back each way, but a touch of quality about Starlust there, and racing up 89 here could be very well indeed. The final race on the card is the handicap over a mile and 3 furlongs, where Nader King is the 9-2 favourite. Intricacy 5-1 with Balance Play the same price. Masso Basti 6-1, 9-1 True Legend, 12-1 bar those.
Yeah, I'm going to take a chance with James Fanshaw's horse here, Masso Basti. Things just didn't pan out for him at Newcastle last time out. He was last turning for home. They came across towards the standside rail. The winner got first run up the stand rail, kicked from the front, and from where he was at halfway or from turning in, he had absolutely no chance. He did quite well to finish third, to be fair to the horse. But prior to that, he'd won well on soft ground at Nottingham. Real tenacious performance that day, because he got headed by the eventual runner-up, but he came back again and dug deep. And you look at his action and the way he goes on soft ground, he's got a real rounded action suited to easy underfoot conditions. And he looks as though he's, I wouldn't say been saved specifically for this, but you know, the fact that it's the sort of next big handicap he goes to, maybe Fanshawe had a race at Goodwood on his mind for this horse, particularly now the rain has come. That's worked out really nicely. So yeah, I quite like Master Basti. I don't think we've got to the bottom of him yet, and I think he's one of the few horses in this race that will relish the conditions, whereas one or two others we don't know whether they will or not. Intricacy, balance play, they've won on good to soft, but they haven't gone on ground as bad as this, whereas Master Basti has.
Yeah, Master Basti been found a bit in the market. A sea of blue on oddschecker this morning was even this morning double figure price in places as big as 11 to 1, now best price 6 to 1. So Andy's clearly been shopping around, but 6 to 1 best price Master Basti here. So that's Friday's racing covered off in record fast time. We haven't got, we're recording this just after midday on Thursday, so racing hasn't got underway yet on Thursday. We haven't got prices for the opening race on the card at Goodwood, which is the Stewards Sprint Handicap, so the consolation race for the Stewards Cup. Andy, we don't have prices, but anything catch your eye in this one?
Yeah, I mean, he's missed out by 3, but I would have had a serious look at Zaman Jamil had he got into the big one itself. Unfortunately, his £6 penalty, which he picked up for winning at first, wasn't enough to get him into the big one. But he comes here in the consolation. I'd really recommend followers of this podcast stay on the right side of Harry and Roger Charlton Sprinter. He won in devastating fashion at Thirst last time out. Clocked a really big number. His back-end sectionals were fantastic on that card at that day. Best by a mile. To match and promote that figure that he clocked, the overall time figure. I think he's a 3-year-old sprinter going places, this fella. And by and large, he's running against a bunch of horses who are fairly exposed. So I'd be surprised, A, if he's not favoured, or B, he's not contended for the win there. I'd imagine he'd be around about a 4 to 1 poke, something like that. Just complete guesswork on my part. But looking at the field, they usually bet if you've got a strong favourite in a race like this, they usually price them up in and around the 7 to 2, 4 to 1 mark. And the fact that he's a sexy type as well from a yard who are in now good form, I can't see it any other way. The only thing is ground again. I'm repeating myself, but ground's the unknown. He's a good ground horse at best at the moment. So whether he'll handle softish ground, if it was still soft by Saturday, who knows? But he's drawn in the middle as well, 8 to 14, so he could go either way, whichever way they split. But yeah, he's a really nice type, Zaman Jamal.
Yeah, Ryan Moore booked as well, which is no bad thing, you wouldn't think.
Definitely not.
That may not help our price when it comes to that stage.
Unfortunately not.
Price should be out fairly soon. The 225, the second race on the card, is the Summer Handicap, and there we can give you some prices. Sweet William is the 5 to 2 favourite ahead of HMS President at 7 to 1. Adjuvant and Omniscient also 7 to 1. Post Impressionist at 11 to 1. He's a Chico. He's actually 11 to 2, so second favourite, and 12 to 1 bar those. Andy.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a sucker for an Alan King handicapper in flat races. I put up Westerton yesterday. He ran quite well. He finished 4th or 5th in the opening handicap. And Paddy ran well on day 1 in the big mile and a quarter handicap. In a pretty good race. And I think HMS President is almost certain to go well here. His form figures tell you that. Very consistent type. He's only poor run last year. Actually came in the Cesaro, which he just didn't stay the trip, basically. It was the end of the season, 2 mile 2.5, wouldn't necessarily be his bag. But mile 6 on soft ground is, again, another horse that's got form at this track. And I like the booking of Ross Orion as well, who often does duty for horses for Alan King. And he's ridden this horse, I think, on his last 3 runs. So, yeah, lots of reasons to suggest that HMS President will be in the first 4 or 5 at the absolute very least.
HMS President, the one there for Andy at 7 to 1 as it stands at the moment. That's for Bet365, who are 1/4 to 3 at this time. The 3 o'clock is the Lily Langtree, Group 2 over a mile and 6. Here we've got Free Wind as the even money favourite, with River of Stars 7 to 2, Time Lock 6 to 1, Louisa Casati 15 to 2, 12 to 1 bar. Andy.
Yeah, Free Wind on a bit of a recovery mission after disappointing last time at Ascot, but let's face it, it was a good contest she ran in. But I'm a big fan of River of Stars. I always have been since her 3-year-old days, and I still think she's going the right way. Don't think we've got to the bottom of her yet. She looks as though she's going to have a bright season when winning first time out. York toughed it out really nicely that day. Got the better of Mimiku. I think she'll beat again. Very strong in the back end of that race to suggest that mile 6 is her trip. I actually think she'll get 2 miles really well. She got beat last time out in Longchamp, but it was still a commendable effort in the Group 2 company against a horse who got form locally trained at the track. So I don't think there was any disgrace in that. She'll handle the ground no problem. And I think at 5-1, I'd sooner be with her each way, providing all 8 runners stay, and then back in free wind at a short price.
Yeah, River of Stars 7-2 at the moment, and for those each way thieves amongst you, maybe for the multi, 8 runners as it stands. So if you were going to have an each way multi, you could get River of Stars in there with those 3 places. Final race we're going to preview in the show, Andy, is the Stewards Cup. Oratio is 4-1. Apollo 1 is 10-1. Al-Bashir, Badri, Juan Lepin, Mr. Wagyu, Mums Tipple, King's Lynn, Aberama Gold, all 12-1. I think that might be the most horses that have ever been the same price in the years we've been doing this. And then a few 18-1 as well. But Oratio, absolutely the hot favourite in the Stewards Cup. You'd be with or against?
Well, he was 7-2 favourite for the Stewards Cup for the Wokingham, Royal Ascot, and albeit he didn't justify those odds, I still thought he ran really well. He finished 6-27 behind St Lawrence, who had his conditions on the day. But that was the problem with Oratio. If you'd backed him anti-poster on the day, you were sort of gambling that he'd run to the level that he'd done previously on soft ground at Newmarket first time out when he beat a good field, and more predominantly when he ran at Ascot the time after, when he beat Sir Thomas Gresham by a long margin. Really, really effective when there's plenty of give underfoot. So if it stays soft on Saturday, he gets a good draw. Say we don't know what the draw is. I think 4-1 in comparison to what he was at Royal Ascot would be better value than taking 7-2 on firm ground. So I certainly couldn't put you off if you fancied a Rosario. I think Apollo 1 again. He's another one that you'd have to factor in. The market seems to have got him right, around about 10s, but he actually finished in front of Rosario at the Royal meeting. Unlike his main fancy, or one of the main fancies, he has got a bit of form on softish ground. Sorry, he's got a bit of form at this track, I beg your pardon. So he's another one to factor in. But until we've seen the draw here and where the pace is going to be, I think it's really difficult to be dogmatic. Like I said, we're not sure what time the draw's been done, but that's going to have a big bearing, a big effect on how I'll approach this race come Saturday, plus the fact that we'll get a chance to see another 2 days racing. They'll open up a new fresh strip of ground as well for Saturday. So the low numbers, which haven't been seen to good effect up to now, might actually be more of a factor the weekend. So I'm not going to pin my colours to the mast at the moment. I know it sounds a bit wishy-washy and not giving a tip, but that's the way I'm seeing it at the moment. I think we've got the right favourite. Whatever happens, Rosario is going to be favourite. If it is still soft Saturday, he's definitely the one to beat. But I doubt either way whether I'm going to be tipping him at 4-1.
There we go. Andy, keeping the powder dry for now with the Stewards Cup until we get a bit more information, and rightly so. Thank you very much to Andy for sharing his time, tips, thoughts, insight with us ahead of the last 2 days of the Goodwood Festival. Hopefully you continue to enjoy the racing. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. You can find plenty more oddschecker betting shows on the oddschecker YouTube channel. Do subscribe there. Make sure you download the app where you can get the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, and Andy's tips straight to the app every morning of racing. We'll be back again, hopefully next week, and look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, please do ensure that you enjoy the racing.